Back in 2013, a serial Bryants Hill sex offender, Nigel Turner, who sexually and physically menaced women in the St. George region of Bristol, was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison. Nigel Turner, residing on Bryants Hill, entered a guilty plea at Bristol Crown Court earlier this month for 3 distinct assaults on young women. Upon his release from incarceration, Turner, then 33, would undergo an additional 2.5 years under an extended license. Nigel Turner was additionally registered as a lifelong sex offender. During the sentencing of Nigel Turner at Bristol Crown Court, Judge Neil Ford QC characterised him as a dangerous offender who had a high risk of assaulting young women. "The reality is that you cannot refrain from perpetrating these offences," he added. "You are evaluated as presenting a significant risk of inflicting serious harm to young females in the future." The married engineer, the nonce sex offender supported by his wife, not uncommon at all, touched his wedding ring but remained emotionless as the sentence was passed. His victims quietly sobbed in the packed public gallery during the hearing. Edward Burgess, representing Turner, read out a letter by him. "I wish to express my deepest apologies to my victims and their families." Turner wore a black beanie hat and gloves during his attacks in the St. George area of the city. "However, I am aware this apology can never make up for what my victims and their families have had to go through. I am deeply ashamed of what I have done." After the hearing, Prosecutor James Ward said the sentence would now keep the people of Bristol safe from further harm. The attacks happened in May and November 2012. On the 11th of May, he attacked a teenager, aged 16, as she walked home in St. George. Wearing gloves and a balaclava, he assaulted her before her friend pulled her free and they ran off. He committed a similar offence on another 16-year-old later the same month. He was wearing a beanie hat and again gloves. 6 months later, on the 28th of November, Nigel Turner grabbed a 24-year-old woman, also in St. George. He eventually ran off after being disturbed by a passing car. After fleeing the scene and returning to his house nearby to dump his disguise, Nigel Turner returned from a different direction and offered to comfort the victim and walk her home. In January, a member of Avon and Somerset Police's Specialist Sexual Assault Unit, Operation Bluestone team, spotted Nigel Turner standing in Furber Road and followed him home. When police raided the nonce's house, they discovered a large quantity of stolen women's underwear and clothes matching those worn by the attacker. They also seized his mobile phone. Nigel Turner was caught on CCTV returning to the scene of his final sex attack in November last year. Speaking after sentencing, DETINSP Mike Buck said, "This particular series of sexual assaults left residents living in fear of Nigel Turner. He preyed on lone women for his own sexual gratification. He is a predator, and I have no doubt that if he were not caught, he would have gone on to commit a more serious crime." The sentence handed to Nigel Turner reflects the serious nature of his crimes, and I hope it sends out a clear message to all that we will bring offenders of sexual assault to justice. The Crown Prosecution Service called Nigel Turner a significant threat to the public. Nigel Turner was admitted to sexual assault, causing someone to engage in sexual activity without their consent, common assault, theft, and 3 counts of voyeurism at an earlier hearing. Where is Nigel Turner now? Who is he sexually assaulting? Let us know.